Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 things that I do to stay positive and grateful, even when I'm not feeling positive or grateful. I'll preface this video by saying I'm not a healthcare professional. In fact, quite the opposite. I struggle pretty greatly with my mental health. But that's what makes me want to talk about this and share these things, is coming from the perspective of someone who struggled my entire life and just sort of felt like, why am I this way? I don't understand, like, I don't know what to do about it kind of vibes. These are 5 things that I have recently implemented, like maybe within the last couple of years, that I am finding are having really, really big positive impacts on my mentality, my overall positivity and gratefulness, my ability to control my emotions when things are not going so great, and all around. So let's hop right into it. Number 1 is breathing slash tension. These two go together for me. So first off, when I start to feel anxious, stressed, like really any sort of negative emotion at all, angry, anything like that that like requires calming and breathing or anything, I will notice, now that I have intentionally started paying attention, I will notice my jaw and shoulders go so tense, and I don't even like consciously notice that until I stopped to specifically pay attention to it. So as far as tension is, I specifically focus on my jaw and shoulders because that's where I have found that I find my tension, that I hold my tension. But I found it helpful in the beginning when I wasn't so practiced at these steps to just like go through a mental checklist of like all my body parts and just make sure that nothing is holding tension, because when I'm physically holding tension, it like physically, it encourages the physical tension that I have, you know what I mean? So I find that just physically releasing any tension helps so greatly. And then with the physical is the mental of breathing. There's so many techniques. There's I think it's 357 or whatever. There's the box breathing technique. Like you could just literally Google breathing techniques or literally just breathe. Like you don't even need a technique. Just take slow, deep breaths. That's one thing that I've noticed is and that's why these are listed as one together as number 1, because this is like the most important things that I can do is release the tension and take some deep breaths, like deep, full chest breaths, a couple if I need them, if the situation warrants it, or if even my feelings think the situation warrants it. All of these things that I'm going to mention here are things that I practice regularly, so that when I'm starting to feel any sort of negativity, ungratefulness, anger, frustration, any of the scaredness, any of those things, I'm already practiced in breathing and releasing tension, so that I'm not just trying to do this new skill while I'm all upset, right? I found it pretty difficult to do at first while I was upset, so I had to practice it when I was in a good mindset, or when I was in a good, safe, calm place, and that really helped me just get used to it. And not only would I practice breathing when I'm good and feeling calm and everything, but when I am feeling good, I would sort of put myself through these imaginary trial runs, if you will, where I would imagine a situation, uh, something like from my life that like kind of comes up often, or that is really likely to come up, or something that I'm worried about, and I will imagine that situation while I'm just sitting calmly, peacefully in my room. That situation's not actually occurring right now or anything, but I'll imagine that situation. It'll, of course, get me a little anxious, and I'll calm myself through it. Number 2 is to practice problem solving, just all the time, constantly. Not only when I'm not necessarily doing all that well, but absolutely when I am, but just all the time, so that so that my homeostasis can be problem solving. You know what I mean? My brain can be used to it. That could be your go-to, in other words. So a lot of the ways that I like to do that is word solving games. I just like words. So I went with word problem, like word puzzle games. Scrabble. I like basically all the different forms of Scrabble, Scrabble Sprint, Scrabble Blast, whatever. But also just like crosswords and fill in the blanks and unscramble words and all of those. Like I really enjoy playing those games, so I tend to play those games in the evening as part of my just like chill in, media like evening time. But it doesn't have to be word games. If I started out with, in the beginning, I literally didn't necessarily know like what problem solving things to even be doing. So I literally just pulled up some math problems online and sat with a piece of paper and like problem solve math problems. which is not necessarily my thing. I don't do numbers, but if you do, that might work for you. But it doesn't have to be like a specific, like, it doesn't have to be a thing that you do to sit down to problem solve, right? A lot of my hobbies and habits, I was trying to say, a lot of my hobbies that I've kind of taken up within the last couple of years or so, I started looking intentionally for hobbies that I already just genuinely enjoyed, but also that included some sort of problem solving. So for me personally, that's roller skating, crocheting, sewing, just general craft. I went with like the crafting type route. There's a lot of like problem solving in crafting, especially I like to, learn new crafts and learn new, you know what I mean? Like I'm not like particularly skilled in any of these, so I'm always like learning and trying to solve and figure out, right? So I find that just filling my general life with hobbies that are generally prefrontal, because of course my habits used to be doing substances in some guy's basement. That was my only hobby. You know what I mean? So it's just been helpful for me. And at first I struggled with it. It's like, I don't know what to do that's good. I don't really enjoy anything. So I really did struggle with that a lot at first. But just, it was kind of like doing all of these things that I'm going to talk about in the video, like all little bits at a time, all together, like kind of slowly, step by step, got me to a point where now I feel like I'm doing pretty good, good enough at least to sit down on the internet and say some of the things that I do find helpful to me anyways. Number 3 is to always remember that feelings are fleeting. I didn't feel this way 30 seconds ago, and I probably won't feel this way in 3 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever, right? Just personally, and I've noticed a lot of people that struggle with mental health, but I'll keep this talking about my experience, is that I just put way too much importance on my feelings. They just feel so important. Like I feel feelings so incredibly strongly. So it's like when I feel like whatever I feel, that's so important. But I have to remember that it only feels that way. And that especially me who struggles with like emotional control, like my feelings change all the time. And so it is super important for me to not base decisions off of any emotion, you know what I mean? Like reacting out of anger and then later regretting it, making decisions that weren't thought out, whatever. But also if I ever am kind of in a down or in a negative feeling, I can like remind myself that I probably won't feel this way in 3 or 30 minutes. It's like, I know very well that if this feeling came on so fast and suddenly, it'll go just as suddenly. If not, then there's an actual thing to worry about, you know what I mean? But it's like a lot of the times I feel that feelings are fleeting, and it's just, especially when I'm feeling down or upset about something, it's important for me to not go over and over and over it and just remember, like, this is what it is now, and pretty soon it won't be this. Number 4 is to stay focused on what matters. As I was just kind of saying, going over and over and over, I tend to ruminate a lot on things that literally don't actually matter. Like, again, it feels like it matters, but what did going over what that guy said to me for 30 minutes, 3 hours, are you kidding, 30 minutes, for 3 hours, what did that do to my end goal of running a rescue? Nothing. What did that do to my end goal of like having a happy, healthy relationship with my spouse? Nothing. You know what I mean? It's like what did that do for my channel? Nothing. Then like, why am I doing that? It's not playing to my own end goal. It's like, I'm not working on my goals. I'm wasting time not doing what I want to be doing. And I just get I've wasted a lot of time, and I just honestly feel, even just talking about it right now, it makes me feel so frustrated thinking about all the time that I've wasted thinking about things that don't matter. But isn't that funny that what I'm talking about is what I'm doing? Thinking about how I've wasted all of that time is not working towards my goal. Like, I'm still not perfect at this, but it's just like, whenever I find something that is just consuming a lot of my time and I find myself thinking about it over and over, I will always be like, oh, okay, hold on. That's, starting to take up some space in my brain. Let me just intentionally stop for a second and think, like, does it deserve space in there or not? You know what I mean? And most of the time, No, I'm discarding things left and right because ultimately what matters to me is a small handful of things in this whole big jumble of crap that happens in my brain. And number 5, I use this one especially when I'm struggling the most, is to just celebrate the small things. Sometimes there's not going to be any big life achievements. You're not going to have reached the big goal that you're working towards. Like most days, there isn't going to be a big celebratory, good for you, you've advanced type of moment. You're going to have to find the little things. Today I stopped procrastinating this video and finally sat down and made it. Good for me. That's a small celebratory win. You know what I mean? And if you sit down in the day to try to think of some of these small celebratory wins and you can't think of any, create some. Create some. The smallest little thing. So you could be like, well, at least I got up and brushed my teeth today. At least I got those dishes done. Whatever little, like, at least I did that today type of thing. It's like, just find something small that you can hang on to. And I promise you, once you start looking, once I started looking, I started finding. You know what I mean? It's like once you didn't notice the pennies on the ground, but once you start looking to pick up pennies off the ground, you'll start seeing a lot of them. You know what I mean? And it's that same effect of once I just started getting in the habit of listing all my little positive things that I've done today, or like little things, like things that I've one step further towards my goal, things like that. I just started finding more and more a lot easier. All of these things, again, like coming from somebody who like really, really was struggling, like deeply, deeply, like I was darn near homeless. I was on substances. I was doing really, really bad. And so if anyone's struggling like that deeply, I can kind of relate to where it's like I didn't even understand these concepts at first. I didn't understand how to do these, and I felt honestly kind of stupid because when people would just be like, just like think positively about it, I would genuinely, how like someone would tell me like, well, can you think positive? Like, what can you think positively about that? I'm just like, genuinely, how does one think positive? Like, can you give me step-by-step instructions? Like, what action would I need to take to make a negative thought positive? Like, I could not understand because I had just been so in my amygdala and in those negative thoughts all the time, and I self-isolated away from people, so all I had was my negativity and my rumination and my own negative thoughts in my head, and it got really deep and dark, and it just I was really struggling, is what I'll say. So for me to go from that to even where I'm at now, it's like all of these things seem simple, they seem little, but isn't that typically the way it is with life? The actual actions necessary are usually pretty simple, but it's just like your mindset and your lack of motivation or your lack of prefrontal ability, frankly, that kind of like stop it, right? Like, for example, weight loss. Like, I struggle so deeply with weight loss. And someone might look at that and be like, literally, why? And even I look at that and go, literally, why? Because I know the instructions are so incredibly clear. Caloric deficit, eat less. Like, literally, just don't eat as much. Stop eating so much. But in that, it's like it's not a case of the instructions being difficult for someone to do. It's a case of your mindset making it difficult. And I'll also say, because I understand this video has like a lot of jump cuts in it, I still struggle with mental health. Clearly, when I start to talk about mental health, specifically when I focus specifically on like positive, helpful things that I do, my brain starts to feel so jumbled, and like I start to get confused and go off in all kinds of different topics, and I can't, it's hard for me to stay focused on that topic. And I feel like that's just because for so long it was my homeostasis to be negative and confused about all of this stuff, that it's like it's almost still my natural habit to go to that. Even though it's like I'll go this way, I'll go to the positive now. It was like I'll almost like take a second of pause before I do. And I need to just consistency. That's the point I'm trying to get at with all of these is consistency. For me, it took me doing these things for several years before I really was like, oh, hold on. Like, I do think pretty differently now. I do feel a lot better now. I do accomplish a lot more now, all of these things. And I get, it's like, you don't even notice it because you're kind of just like doing little things step by step. It's like, you kind of sit there and think like, what would being proud about me getting, a chore done today even do? And in that moment, doesn't really feel like it did a lot, but it's like it's doing a lot. There's a video I saw that I particularly like, and the video basically is a jar full of dirt, and he says why positive thinking doesn't work. He takes the hose and he, for 3 seconds, puts the hose in the bottle of dirt, and now there's still dirt in there, but there is some water as well, but it's still mucky, dirty water. One small amount, one time of positivity doesn't change anything, doesn't remove the negativity, but he places the hose back into that bucket and turns it on, just leaves it in there, just leaves it, waits, water is rushing in, we're all just watching the screen like, what's the point? Eventually, all of the dirt that was in that bucket gets washed out, and is replaced only by clean water in the bucket now. And it's making the point that, like, positivity and gratefulness really only works to help change a mindset if it's done all the time, consistently, to the point that all of that negativity that I spent almost 30-something years building up, like my jar full of dirt, like I can't just splash a positive thought in there and it just wash away all of the negative right away, you know what I mean? It's gonna take consistency, and as I do this more, I'm finding that it's helping more. But again, I'll just say that I, of course, still struggle greatly. These things are not like the end all be all, like do these and you'll feel better tomorrow. Like I don't want to phrase it that way, because I think there's just too much people online being like, do this and you'll feel better, buy this and you'll feel better. Like I think it just convolutes everything. Like the whole topic of mental health is so convoluted already. Like again, it really is kind of simple, but it gets really convoluted, not only by our own feelings and thoughts and everything and emotions, but also just by like people trying to sell us stuff. People can take advantage of our emotions pretty easily, you know what I mean? If they make me scared or angry, I will probably buy whatever it is that will fix that fear from happening, or that will stop that thing that makes me angry, you know what I mean? And I just, yeah, it gets really convoluted because it makes money to keep it convoluted. And I think it really, we all just need to simplify it back out to being prefrontal, being problem solving and grateful and positive. This video is definitely becoming into a rambly video rather than the structured one that I had planned, as is usual with my brain. So I don't know if you liked it. I don't know if I even like this. If it made it to the channel, I guess I've liked it enough to put it up. Thanks for joining me. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the little thumbs up down below. Subscribe while you're hanging out down there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Fuck it. I'm counting it.